Hi everyone, I wanted to invite you all to a 14-day shadow work journaling challenge. If you already know what shadow work is and what the shadow self is, and you don't need an explanation for that, and you just want to know how the challenge will go down and how we will journal together for 14 days, then you can fast forward to this timestamp right here. I will also provide it down below in the comments, and you can just skip my explanation. But I did want to start out with an explanation as to what the shadow self is and what shadow work in and of itself is, and then explain what the challenge is going to be about. I also just wanted to quickly say that shadow work is a topic that can be talked about for days, for years. You can go really deep with this topic, and I will try to keep it as simple and as quick as it can be, and just give you like a general overview of what the shadow self is and what shadow work is. To like keep it simple essentially. But if you have any questions, you can always drop me a comment down below, or go on my blog, which I will also link down below, where I also wrote down the description of what the shadow self is and what shadow work is in a little bit more detail, so if you want to look into that you can. But yeah, let's get into the explanation of what shadow work even is. So I have been fascinated with shadow work for some years now. It is my favorite way to gain self-awareness and to grow personally and emotionally, and it has led to me having better relationships with other people, but also with myself. And that's what I love it so much for. But when we talk about the shadow self, what even is that? So some of you might know the holistic psychologist on Instagram, Dr. Nicole LaPera. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. But she gives a really simple definition of the shadow self. And she said, I will read it off my phone here. The shadow self is an unconscious part of the self that we have repressed since childhood in order to be accepted and loved. So this part of us carries the emotions we repressed because we were told they are bad or wrong, and that we then habitually project onto others. It contains the behaviors, thoughts, beliefs, and I also included dreams, that were unacceptable to those whose love we desired most. And I also added that as children we just needed love for survival, quite literally. So doing anything we could to get love was obviously of utmost importance. So if there was a part of you that, for example, your parents, if that was your biggest social environment, did not like about you, or an emotion that they did not like when you expressed it, you started repressing it. It becomes unconscious over time, and essentially that's what the shadow is an unconscious part of yourself. And that essentially means that who you think you are is only the tip of the iceberg of who you actually are. And who you actually are might be very, very different from who you think you are. Or it might be way bigger than who you think you actually are. So there might be a lot of emotions, beliefs, thoughts, dreams, and needs that you could never even worry about because you were not aware of your unconscious self, essentially. So the shadow contains both positive and negative aspects of ourselves that are simply unconscious. It's not a big scary thing that only contains your jealous and your aggressive side and your greedy side. It's not like that. It has obviously things that in our society we would deem unacceptable or bad, but it also has things that are very useful, like for example leadership qualities or a very creative side. Maybe that wasn't very welcome in your family and you repressed it. Or maybe you repressed happiness. That could also be a thing, something that I kind of had to work with. So there can be positive and negative aspects of yourself hidden away in your unconscious, untapped potential that you could discover that could lead to more fulfillment in your life and to you finding out who you actually are, and then working with that and designing your life and your relationships in a way that fit better to who you actually are deep down, and not just who you think you are or who you were taught to be. Shadow work itself then is an umbrella term for a bunch of different practices and processes that can lead to you unearthing the unconscious. So making the unconscious conscious, be it positive or negative parts of your unconscious. Shadow work can go in a lot of different ways. For example, you can do visualizations as a meditative practice. You can also do journaling to do your shadow work, essentially anything that can make you aware of what is unconscious in you. And for this challenge, I chose journaling because it is one of my favorite things to do, and I think it's very accessible to everyone because all you need is a pen and paper. So what's kind of important about shadow work is that when we do make the unconscious conscious, we might find things out about ourselves that we at first find hard to deal with, or that we are not as accepting of. And shadow work then kind of goes against the idea of bashing yourself or adding onto your pile of self-hate because you found out about something about yourself. Shadow work kind of challenges the idea of it being negative or bad about you. And what you would try to do is to find more compassion and more understanding and more love for yourself through all of the things that you are finding out about yourself, no matter if you could judge them as positive or negative. And what you would also try to do with more quote-unquote negative things you find out about yourself is to see how they could actually add on to your life, how they are maybe protecting you, how they can be useful, how they might even have positive aspects to them that can really help you enrich in your life. Because all of the aspects, everything that you find out about yourself are pieces of you that deserve love and understanding, that deserve to be heard, and that are here for you, not against you. And shadow work is all about going into that process of figuring out how aspects are for you and not against you, and how you can use them in their most exalted form. And if we also find out what those unconscious parts of us are needing from us, are wanting from life, we can meet those needs and reach more fulfillment and happiness in our lives as well, because our entire being is catered for in the way that we live, and not just a small part of us, if that makes sense. And like I said, there might also be some very positive aspects of us that we are unconscious of that bring a lot of great gifts and untapped potential with them, like a very outspoken part maybe that just wasn't welcome in your childhood home that could now really help you in your career. Things like that are a huge draft of a pool of untapped potential that is yours for the taking as soon as you become aware of it. So why we would want to make the shadow conscious, even if it can sometimes be a very difficult process and it can lead to us finding out things about ourselves that we do not want to find out. It's not easy and it can be very uncomfortable, but the reason we would want to do it is because anything that is unconscious to us can also be expressed unconsciously in very unhealthy ways, and it can end up hurting us and also the people we're in relationships with. If you, for example, have a need for attention that you're unaware of, or a need to express your anger, you might project that onto other people, or you might start manipulating to get your needs met indirectly. And all of those things are obviously very understandable, but they are things that we might want to change. We might need some more healing to make our relationships better and to better ourselves. So the self-awareness that comes through shadow work is not easy, and it is uncomfortable, but it is worth it because it leads to more happiness and fulfillment and better relationships, and it can lead to you healing your unhealthy patterns that might stop you from living the life that you want to live and having the relationships that you want to have. So to make it very simple, shadow work is making the unconscious conscious, and that's all about it is. So now, as for the challenge, what I wanted to do was to use journaling because, like I said, it's very accessible. All you will need for this challenge is a pen and paper. If you already have a shadow work journal, you can use that one. And how this challenge will go down is that on Monday, the 27th of July, 2020, I will start the challenge on Vibely. And Vibely is an app. I will put the link to join it down below in the description box. But in this app, we can open up a chat for all of us, and then we can go through the challenge together. I will post a new journaling prompt every single day on the app, and you will get a notification so that you remember to take part. And then you can click accept and complete the challenge in your own time that day. And then in the chat, we can talk about who already completed the challenge, how it was for you, any questions that you have, any struggles. Maybe you want to share what you journaled about and just get some insight and some different perspectives on it, or some help, or just share it for the fun of it. And all of that is possible within the app. If you join us later than the 27th in this challenge, or you don't want to participate via Vibely, I also made a blog post where I included a PDF file that I made. And the PDF file in this blog post, which I will link to also down below, has all the 14 journal prompts on it, and you can participate in your own time by yourself and however you want. Just because I say it's 14 days does not mean you have to do a journal prompt every single day. It can be quite heavy, and I would want for all of us to be gentle with it, and not all of us have time every single day to journal and go deeply into ourselves. So If you want, you can also take your time and take 3 months to complete this, or 6 months, or whatever, however long you want. And you also don't have to use every single one of the journal prompts. I just compiled the list of journal prompts, which has some of my own journal prompts and also some of other people that I really liked and that I've used over the years. I obviously credited all the people and put their information down below, so you can also access their pages and learn from them. But yeah, you can also just use the PDF. And if you have any questions during the process, or you do want to talk to someone about it, I have a section on my blog which is called a forum, Q&A and discussions, and I will open up a page just for the challenge, and you can always message me there and everyone else who is on the blog and participating in the discussion, and you can share your journey there or ask any questions. Now, what's very important to keep in mind is that shadow work can be very difficult and it can be very uncomfortable, like I said earlier. So what's important is to try to find as much understanding and compassion for yourself as you can throughout this entire process. It would be awesome if you could practice self-care, whatever that means for you, before you start journaling and after you start journaling. And when you do journal, try to be as automatic with it as possible. Obviously, you can think about what you're writing, but try to let your unconscious speak through you, which means very automated writing. Just ask yourself the question and write down the first thing that comes to mind, and you will start to get into a flow and just kind of follow your intuition there. And you can always reflect on what you wrote and then try to bring forward to yourself a bit more self-love instead of bashing yourself or hating on yourself for the things that you find out about yourself, especially when it maybe comes to things you did differently in the past than you would have wanted to or than you would today, because you've grown as a person. Like, try to be very kind to yourself and give yourself ample amounts of time to be able to take care of yourself afterwards as well, and watch how you speak to yourself about the things that you find out. And what I'm also kind of advocating here is a very radical form of self-love. Self-love that doesn't come easy, that is unconditional though. So if you find out things about yourself that you at first do not accept or do not like, try to love yourself regardless. Try to love yourself because of that thing. Try to see how it could be a good thing. Try to see how you can still love yourself even though you might be jealous or aggressive sometimes, or how you maybe did something in the past you're not proud of. Radical self-love is the goal here, and it starts with finding understanding for yourself. So always try to do that first, and then try to find compassion for yourself through that understanding, and in the end, over the long time, you will find more unconditional love for yourself, which is, I think, one of the most important things to develop in your life. So it's also an exercise for that. And please also keep in mind that everyone has an unconscious part of themselves. Everyone has things they're not proud of or that they at first have a hard time accepting. Everyone has things that could be considered negative or dark. So you are not alone at all. And if you need to share your experience, or if you need help with seeing the positive aspects of a certain emotion or the positive aspects of something that you're not proud of you did, then you can always ask us either on the forum or on Vibely and try to find help with that. But this, again, is not an exercise in bashing yourself. It is an exercise in finding radical compassion for yourself and radical self-love. And it is also not a process of comparing your unconscious sides to someone's best sides that they are displaying on the outside. I also just want everyone to keep in mind that this is not a replacement for a professional mental health process. So if you are in need of support and if you need help, please do seek out counsel or a medical professional in your area, a mental health professional in your area, and do get the support that you deserve and that you need. This is not a replacement for that. It is just an exercise for more self-awareness and an exercise that you can do on your own. And yeah, with that said, if there's any questions, post them down below in the comments, and I would love to talk to you guys there. I hope you're gonna have some fun, or at least some very interesting times in your journal sessions, and I hope to see you in Vibely, and if not there, on my blog. Everything will be linked down below, and how you can participate will also again be written out down below in the description box and also on my blog. So if you have any questions, always feel free to look through that and then also ask me. And yeah, I'm really excited to start this. I hope you're excited too, and I'll see you soon. Bye.